Okay, hi, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about the grade 10 English language and literature syllabus. So let's break down the examination paper, which is basically how they structure their learning periods at school. So in a year, you'd have about, let's see. So as you can see here, there's 40 plus 40 plus 50. So that's about 130, and then 30 more periods for a fourth section called listening. So in a year, if you have 160 periods with a particular class, the teacher will divide their instruction based on four categories. So in the English literature curriculum, the basic idea is that you need to have reading skills, writing skills, listening skills, and speaking skills. Now, they look at reading, writing, listening, and speaking in a couple of different ways, but the structure is largely the same. So, what do they look at in a reading skills section? So, in the CBSE exam, most of you will be familiar with this if you're listening to this video. About three times a year, you have an exam that you have to give that's out of around 80 marks. In this exam, they test you based on certain skills, which often goes back to these four skills, which are reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Often in the exam, the focus is primarily reading and writing, especially in the English literature exam, and this exam is worth about 80 marks. Now, you really need to understand what the assessment criteria is for this exam to do really well in it. And because I'm an English teacher, very often students that study the CBSE English curriculum may be wondering, I'm not able to get the highest possible mark in this English exam, but I'm doing so well in my math exam and social science exam. I wonder why. Very often it's because you don't understand the perspective of the teacher. What are they trying to help you learn? So when you understand that, you naturally become a lot better and you're able to score a lot more. So in the reading skills section, the first part is a discursive passage, and the second part is a case-based factual passage. So what will happen is they will first give you both these passages, and then they'll give you a set of questions that you have to answer based on it. So the questions can include multiple choice questions, as you can see here, or objective short answer questions. And you have to answer this in a specific time period. I think one of the most important things you can do is really understand how much time you need to allocate to each section. For instance, if it's a 80 mark exam and you have 2 hours, you can allocate 1 hour to complete 40 marks. So based on that, in this exam, if you have 2 hours, you will have 1 hour to complete section A and B and 1 hour to complete section C. And that is something you really need to adhere to as a student. Try to understand this time frame and try to answer your questions within this time frame. Now, once you are done with the reading section, which is about 20 marks, and it should take you about half an hour or more, depending on how much time you have, the next section is the writing skills and grammar part. Now, in grade 10 and grade 9, they do focus on writing skills, and the skills that they want you to develop are related to these four or five sections. So, determiners, tenses, modals, subject, verb, concord, reported speech. Now, what are determiners? They're normally placed before a noun to give you a sense of the quantity of that particular object. For instance, a and an. So, a chocolate, an apple, that tree, this object. So, these things help you determine what the noun stands for or what quantity is represented in that noun. Tenses can be anything from past to present to future. So I ate this apple. I am eating this apple. I will eat this apple. So that's a past, present, and future tense over there. Now, modals are things that can modify things like I could go to the mall. I should eat a healthy meal. So these are things that modify the verb, and that's what you can use with a verb generally. A subject verb concord basically means how you can look at a subject and look at a verb and use the right tenses or the right singular plural structure there. For instance, when you are saying something in the plural, you have to use certain other words in the right structure. So I ate many apples, and I'll go into more depth with each section. I'll create a video for each section. Reported speech is basically a form of indirect speech where someone told you something and you were trying to say it in your own words. So you met a friend yesterday and they told you that they had seen the latest film of a famous director. So I saw this film by a famous director. Now, how do you report that speech to someone else? What you will do is you will meet another person and tell them, he said that he had seen the film of a famous director. Now, how do you report a command? How do you report a statement? How do you report a question? That's what this part sort of entails. And here is like their assessment criteria. So, accurate use of spelling, punctuation, grammar in context will be assessed through gap filling, editing, transformation exercises. So, 10 out of the 12 questions have to be attempted. Now, the next thing is the writing skills section. So, in the writing skills section, first you are expected to write a formal letter and then an analytical paragraph based on a map, chart, graph, or cue. In the writing skills section, I think you have to give a lot of importance to format, content, and expression. Okay, so format is basically the layout that they want you to follow. Be very particular about this layout. Make sure you stick to what you have practiced in the classroom. Then, in the content, you're basically thinking about what you want to communicate. Remember, all of English goes back to communication. The more direct you can be with your communication, the better. And then finally, in terms of expression, try to communicate something, but communicate it in a unique way, adding as much value as possible to a particular conversation. So, an analytical paragraph. Now, they'll give you a map, a chart, a graph, and they'll tell you to describe it using an analytical paragraph. So, in the first sentence, very often you need to tell me what the map, graph, or chart is about, and then give me three supporting arguments for why you think this chart or graph or map is about those things. Again, please stick to the format. It's extremely important you adhere to that structure. Then in the second section of this exam, you have language through literature. Now, what do you mean by this? Okay, so there's going to be a set of questions, as you can see. So there's short answer questions, long answer questions, and they're primarily from these books. I will be discussing all the passages and stipulated texts in independent videos over time. But what you basically need to know is that they will ask you short and long answer questions related to things you have studied in these particular books. These are the stories that these questions will be based on. I think it's very important to, when you are reading these stories, understand it from a literary sense, understand it from a thematic sense, understand it from a technical, literal sense. So there's various ways you can read a text, and we will read these texts together on this channel, so you understand how to assess and understand or answer these questions that will come in your exam. So this is a good breakdown of what they would expect you to do. So, in reading comprehension, what they're trying to help you achieve is conceptual understanding, decoding, analyzing, inferring, interpreting, and vocabulary. In writing skills and grammar, creative expression of an opinion, reasoning, justifying, illustrating, appropriacy of style and tone, applying conventions, using integrated structures with accuracy and fluency. So, in addition to sticking to the format and structure, they want you to creatively express something. So, try to maintain that formal tone, but add something valuable or useful to that as well. In language through literature, what you're trying to do is to recall, reason, appreciate, apply literary conventions. So they want you to read it thematically, as you can see here, the central theme and sub-themes, but also to appreciate finer details in the text, like the figures of speech used, the dramatic elements used, and more. And in the internal exam, you will have a listening and speaking sort of assessment. You can do activities like role play, skit, dramatization, and more. This is what they're looking for in your internal assessment. How do you interact with people? How fluent you are? What's your pronunciation like and your use of language or grammar and vocabulary? Okay, so that's the video of the grade 10 syllabus. Again, I'm looking forward to create more short videos of the curriculum, of specific chapters in the curriculum, and to help you understand the curriculum from the perspective of an English teacher, but also to help you do really well in these exams, which I think is a larger objective of anyone studying some of these courses in the CBSE board. So until next time, keep learning.